This Late Night Linux Family podcast is made possible by our patrons. Go to latenightlinux.com/support for details of how you can join them. Support us on Patreon for access to ad-free episodes and early releases. That's latenightlinux.com/support. Hello and welcome to episode 104 of Linux After Dark. I'm Joe.
I'm Chris.
I'm Gary.
And I'm May.
Welcome back all. Summer is officially over. You're not allowed to wear white in America anymore. And so it's time to hunker down and work on our technical debt. Like me, I presume you all have some Linuxy projects that you've been putting off. Well, we're going to talk about them today and we're going to commit to getting on with them, getting them sorted, and then we're going to do an update in late December, around Christmas time, to see whether we actually got on with it. Gary, what are you going to do before Christmas?
I have just finished a project of sorts, which was migrating off of my Synologies for storage onto TreeNAS and putting in a new Proxmox host at home. So I'm fairly set as far as hardware projects go, or at least I don't intend on spending any more money on hardware projects over winter, which is what I'd usually do. So for me, it's moving off of proprietary software, in quotes, and onto various FOSS alternatives. So for me, it is finally installing Immich on my wife's phone and getting that configured to a point where the uploads work reliably, and then moving off of Plex onto Jellyfin, because the Plex app is far too widely used in our house, and one too many times has my wife clicked the agree button when something has popped up on the Apple TV and she's opened the Plex app. And I'm not having it anymore. We're moving away.
That's funny because the thing that I'm going to do is also move to Immich and get Jellyfin working properly.
I can vouch for Jellyfin being incredibly robust and lovely now. The last time I piped up about it, I was still in Plex land and I didn't want the hassle of moving people over. But I am very, very happy with it. So I think it's in a great, mature, stable place for you to move to it. So I think you should be okay. How are you going to deploy it, Joe, on the server side?
Well, you have not heard Hybrid Cloud Show yet, where I commit to learning about Docker Compose.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's the thing that I will commit to, is before Christmas, I'm going to get Docker and Docker Compose working on something.
Once again, hell has frozen over.
Yep. It's about time. It's just ridiculous to be installing it on the metal and then worrying like, oh, what else can I install? It's going to break things and different versions of stuff. It needs to be containerized. And seeing as you lot all know Docker, I think that's what I'm going to have to do.
This feels like a momentous occasion. I don't know what to do.
Don't know whether to laugh or cry.
Well, we'll find out in December.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, the thing I'm most concerned about with the move to Jellyfin is the client-side stuff. Like the Jellyfin client on Apple TV, I've not heard the greatest things about. There's a bunch of third-party alternatives, both paid for and not. It feels like that's going to be a really painful experience for a while, trying to find something that meets all of the family acceptance factor.
Have you heard of this guy called Jeff Bezos? He's got this great product called a Fire Stick, and the app on that is brilliant.
I was just going to say that I don't have any Apple clients, so I can't speak to that. The Android TV app, whether you install it on, a Fire Stick or something googly, or the phone app, is great. There's a third-party alternative called Findroid for Android, which lets you download things like you would if you had a Plex Pass locally. But my colleague at work has Apple devices and he has the same struggle, Gary. So that is a bit more grindy. There's something called Infuse. That's one of the paid ones that gets talked about highly, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the ones I'd heard of that was quite good. But again, it's paid for, right? Which I guess defeats the purpose, because once those Apple TVs die, they're not getting replaced and we're just using the Chromecasts that are plugged in.
Well, I've used the iPad app for Jellyfin, the official one, and it's fine. It does direct play, which is important to me, right now at least. And otherwise was fine, unless you want to do the downloading, which I suppose you want to do, don't you, for holidays and stuff?
Yeah, like on the iPad and the kids' Android tablet and things, that's pretty important to us, is being able to cache stuff offline.
So here's the thing that drove me to Findroid. If you download things on the official Android app, and then go offline, it won't let you play the offline files and says, I can't reach the server. And I was like, isn't this the whole point? And then I looked up some issues and everyone was just saying, just try Findroid. And it is much better. But yeah, if you can't get that, that's exactly my use case. I've got 2 children where if we're on a long journey, preloading stuff in the same interface and just saying, just go in and they have metadata and a catalog just like they used to. It's a killer feature. So if you can't replicate that nicely, then that's annoying.
Yeah, it's all of these edge cases that concern me, because at least with Plex, I install the official app and it is just a pretty consistent experience, if a little bit shitified at this point.
So what about Immich then? I thought you had that up and running already, so it's just a case of configuring the iPhone app for your wife.
So yeah, I have Immich up and running with 10 or so years of my photos in, and I've been using it for 18 months now. I haven't fully switched over to it. I still have my photos going to Google Photos as well. But again, it hasn't lost any photos in 18 months, although the Here Be Dragons warnings still exist on their GitHub page. So yeah, it's configuring the iOS client for my wife and getting her to trust it, I guess, as the button to click on her phone when she wants to look at and back up photos. That is a bigger hurdle than it might seem, because she is very entrenched in that iCloud Photos ecosystem.
Can't you just hide the icon?
I probably could, to be fair. I mean, the slight thing that makes me think that this might work a bit better is that she now has an Android tablet to go with the iPhone and MacBook. So it's only going to be a matter of time before we go on holiday. She takes some photos on her phone and then wants to look at them on the bigger screen when we get back to the Airbnb or something.
The only problem is, if you hide the Photos app on iOS, you lose the features of the Photo app, like recently deleted even, and being able to see the hidden album or other albums that you've created. So it's actually not a great experience if you hide it, but it is also not a great experience to need to use 2 different apps, depending on whether you want your backed up photos or not.
Yeah, and the thing I'm dreading is that she has an even bigger library of old photos in iCloud Photos than even I did in Google Photos, and importing those, that's going to be a crap ton of time and a crap ton of storage to pull them all down.
Well, all my photos are just sitting in a directory on ZFS at the moment. So what I'll probably do before I deploy Immich is just mirror that somewhere, just make another data set and just make sure that I've got it all backed up twice, even though, you know, I've got my ZFS backups and snapshots and everything, but just to be sure. So am I expecting that to take ages to import them all then? Like there's, you know, I'm talking about 15 years worth of photos off various devices, all just dumped into one directory.
For me, it wasn't so much the import that took time. That takes as long as your HTTP server takes to process an image upload.
Oh, well, in this case, it's going to be on the same box.
Yeah, so that shouldn't take too long. The thing that takes longer is all of the ML stuff that it does in the background for face detection, geotagging and putting those on a map, all that kind of stuff. But for me, I just kind of batched it, did 6 months worth of photos at a time when I had a spare half an hour, and realistically didn't take that long to get through 10 or so years of photos.
Obviously, you're running it on CPU. Could you accelerate that with the GPU if you wanted to?
You can, and there are a bunch of projects where you can do distributed ML stuff on GPUs you may have around the house.
Right.
I didn't try any of that. All of mine was running in a VM on an N100, and it worked absolutely amicably for what I needed. And now it's just doing it on batches of 5 or 10 photos that get uploaded at a time, so it's not an issue at all.
Well, mine's going to be on my 9600 case on 9th gen desktop i5.
Yeah, I think I'd just prepare for the CPU to be pegged for a few hours. I don't think it's anything more than that.
Right.
This really brings us to, you've been migrating off Synology. I think I need to decide whether to migrate off Synology, because I really don't want to. I really don't want to get any new hardware for that problem. And I'm using Synology Photos and Synology Drive instead of using Immich and Nextcloud running on it, which might have been a terrible idea.
Are you saying that the catchphrase, you should have bought a Synology, is morphing into you shouldn't have bought a Synology?
It might be. I don't know. They haven't done anything bad with my device, except it doesn't get updates very often, and that's really worrying me, except for, critical security fixes are the only things I've seen, and they haven't even been offered to me. I've had to go looking for them.
You can't run your own operating system. You know, we've discussed before, like you can buy these TerraMaster ones that are essentially just a box. You can get to a BIOS fairly trivially. You can overwrite the stock OS, but you just can't do that in Synology, right?
Nope, that is not an option.
Mm.
You can run the Synology operating system elsewhere with Xpanology, but that's also, like, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah, that always felt like a terrible idea to me. And the hardware support for that is really, really ropey, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, for me, it was more knowing that when the box that I had came to end of life, there was effectively no upgrade path.
Mm-hmm.
Like, until now, I've been taking the disks and moving them to the new box, and I turn it on, I install the OS, and it just imports all the config and works. That isn't a thing anymore because my disks aren't the blessed Synology ones. And in a few years' time, I would have had to replace that box. So my strategy was get rid of all of the Synologies, which will recoup the cost that I've spent on the new hardware, because for some crazy reason they have a good resale value on eBay. I've yet to list them, but that's also on my list of things to do over the next couple of months.
Well, that sucks. Okay. I haven't been following that story, so that's just kind of a real bummer.
Could you not just go back to those same municipal auctions and get yourself an 8th, 9th, 10th generation mini tower, something like that? Stick your disks in that, install Proxmox or Ubuntu, and just have at it.
I probably could, but the nice thing with the Synology is I actually haven't had to worry about it until now. So, yeah, that does make things a little disappointing. It genuinely has just sat and kept working, except for the worrying aspects about what that actually means for it. It's a hard decision. The software does work, although they have moved all the processing that used to be done on their box is now moved off to your clients. So things like image processing, I guess they just didn't renew their licenses for things like HEIC or HEVC. So they can't actually do that on box anymore. And they've offloaded that to any client you have connecting. So that's either your Windows PC or your iOS devices. Will all now do processing of your old photos while they're connected, which is less great too. There's so many reasons to move off of this platform, and I'm just digging my heels in for no reason.
I dug my heels in for the longest time, and I think that trade-off of, yes, I have to do more admin on the box now, but also it's just some storage on ZFS, and I could basically move it wherever I want, to whatever hardware I want. And the upgrade path isn't buy a new Synology every 5 years when they decide to stop releasing software updates. It's something that I'm kind of happy with. But equally, I don't know, I'm spending more time with a terminal open connected to a storage server than I have for the last 10 years or so.
Is that the what's your time worth question? Are we getting too far into this? I need to decide on this before December, it seems. But I do have other projects that I actually want to do that I don't just need to decide whether to do or not.
All right.
One of them is, I have a nonprofit that I work with, and their website is currently on Dreamhost. And it's just a static site that I have to upload with rsync. I think that I could put it on GitHub Pages pretty easy. So that's one project that I'd like to do. Just get the DNS moved over and everything. Another project that I want to do, and it kind of depends on whether I pick the Synology or not, is I want to set up Home Assistant so that people who don't have iOS devices can actually use my smart devices. But I don't know whether to do that on the Synology, and I don't know whether I should set up Homebridge to bridge my HomeKit devices or set up a new Thread and Matter network. It's just, that one's kind of up in the air too. I hope we'll get tons of feedback on that because I genuinely have no idea.
Again, get yourself that box I suggested. Use that for storage and Home Assistant.
I mean, yeah, once you have a big enough box, just tossing something in Docker isn't a big deal. And isn't that the way they want you to deploy Home Assistant anyway?
That's how I do it. It runs nicely. I just ran out of steam of caring about it. It was very exciting at first. And then after I got some lights and things, I was like, oh, I can't be bothered to add anything else now.
It's not anything too exciting for me. It's just some switches on the walls, like electricity monitoring. Nothing too fancy. So it doesn't necessarily even need to go to other people who live there or anything. It's just, I don't know. I feel weird about being the only one able to control the place, even if that's not that big of a deal.
Again, it's how much is your time worth? You could just go and buy all the people you live with an iPhone. Problem solved.
Or you could not have a home full of internet of shit and just use proper light switches that require you to get off your ass and switch them.
Well, I would love to do that, but I don't own this place, so I can't set those switches up myself.
Right. What about you, Chris? You must be working on something.
Yeah, so quite a while ago, I mentioned that I'd never really got into Python, and that was the language I'd picked because I get exposed to it quite a bit at work. It is fairly human readable. It's a good place to start. And I finally hit a bit of a vein with it. Every human is different in terms of learning new skills. And I find actually every subject I decide to tackle can attach to my brain in a different way. Sometimes it's short video tutorials, like lots of playlisted chapters, and sometimes it's books. And with Python, I've managed to find a book. I've tried before, as I've mentioned on air, doing short tutorials, tutorial courses. It's never quite stuck. And I decided I'm going to sit down with this book, Python Crash Course, which for me is the perfect level because it's right from the start. It's really well structured from a teaching point of view. It gives you short chapters, you follow through, and then it gives you example tasks that you immediately do to consolidate the learning. And I've tried to do what I've done with when I've had to learn a bit of R, use subject matter that is interesting to me. For me, it's football. So immediately, for whatever reason, lists of football players are immediately more interesting to me than the exemplar lists that are in the book. And key and value pairs, if they're a footballer in the number of goals scored, immediately my brain can remember that much more than pizza toppings or whatever. So my goal for Christmas is not to lose the momentum of this and to continue and try and get through the book and develop it further so that I feel like I can actually write some code and not always have to boilerplate it. And I'm getting there slowly, I think, which is quite satisfying. What I liked about the book in the introduction is it was very much pragmatic about the idea that programming is logic to a certain degree, and learning a programming language, once you've picked one, helps with others. So I'm hoping that bears fruit a little bit. One thing which has really helped me, which was a rule I set for myself, was not to copy and paste even the simplest of examples from the textbook to my terminal. So always type it out, character by hand, which was slightly arduous at first, but it's so much better for consolidating things into your memory. So that's my ultimate goal for Christmas is, I think, to try and finish that book and then maybe move on to, I've got a little bibliography as if this was some kind of, unit of teaching, and then try and actually use it practically to achieve goals that I have where I might fall back to Bash, for example.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you going to rewrite some Bash scripts then?
Well, we'll see. It's certainly something I'd like to try. And I think it all feeds everything. It feeds kind of my professional work as well, because I interact with Python code a lot, and it's gone from just a wall of unintelligible text to really starting to take shape for me now. And work is feeding into this book as well. So sometimes I'll get to a whole run of pages and I'll be like, yep. Like, that's so familiar. I've just never had it put in context correctly before in this way with the bits that I started with and the bits I'm moving on to.
You're so boring, Chris. Your project is professional development. No, it's admirable. It is admirable, though.
I really love those no-starch press books, though. Basically, everything I've read from them has been excellent, so this is a strong recommendation for them. It'd be really cool if they sponsored us.
Yes, this is true.
Dare to dream.
Doesn't sound like there's enough ukuleles in that book for me, Chris. I'm not going to lie.
One time I asked you all to read a book, and I'll never hear the end of it.
You will never hear the end of it. It was one of the worst books I've ever read, man. I should feel ashamed. Well, I've never read Bravo 20 by Andy McNabb. Not yet.
So yeah, and aside from that, sometimes I look at my home lab. It's like when you see a barber's haircut. Like, I wouldn't want to necessarily open up my boxes at home for other people to look at. But sometimes I do think, like, I don't use any kind of version control at home where I could. And I see the benefits, again, at work so much to be able to have rollbacks and accountability for changes. Because sometimes I just cowboy it. And then I think a few months later, obviously you have backups you can refer to and everything like that. So you can restore stuff. But being able to trace the thought process and put a bit more of a kind of professional spin on things at home, I think would actually save time in the long run. But whether or not I'll get to that on top of everything else, as the evenings draw in and you're like, what shall I do now? Shall I get the Python textbook out or should I just watch television? That's when it becomes really challenging, I think, when you have to keep the self-discipline to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, it's like I would like to get into Ansible as well. It's really time that I started using Ansible to deploy servers, and even people use it for the desktop, don't they?
Mm.
We really got under your skin in that one episode. I'm shocked.
Yeah, you did. I mean, I've been wanting to do it for ages. Like, I feel like I said on that episode, listening to 30-odd episodes of you lot talk about this stuff makes me feel like I'm living in the Stone Age.
And how many episodes of 2.5 Admins have you done?
Yeah, but they live in the Stone Age as well, don't they?
What we're saying is there's 200 plus episodes of Joe being enabled in 2.5 Admins, 30 episodes of him being evangelized elsewhere.
Right, well, we will all have to listen back to this episode and we will be accountable at Christmas. So let's hope we actually get on with the things that we promised to.
I think this is good, Joe. I think it's good to plant a seed that in a few months we are accountable for committing to these goals. And on air, we then have to evaluate.
Defend yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Eat shit when we don't do it.
Yes, exactly. That's it.
Yes, that one.
Well, we'll see. But for now, we'd better get out of here. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. But until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Chris.
I've been Gary.
And I've been May.
See you later.